Good day, men, and welcome to day 11 of the 28-day body transformation audio seminar. I am Coach Jerome, and today we're going to be speaking briefly about carbs and fat. And I'll try and get this brief because this particular topic I think is worth covering loosely, but doesn't merit going into a lot of depth. This will not be an exhaustive treatise on the fundamentals of nutrition today. There are a variety of diets, many emphasizing different macronutrient ratios, and many people claiming that certain ratios are better for certain things. But none of that really matters if you're in a caloric deficit. And just to be clear, macronutrient ratios is essentially a certain percentage of how much of your diet should be constituted of protein, carbs, and fat. A traditional bodybuilding diet might be something along the lines of 40% carbohydrate, 40% protein, 20% fat. A ketogenic diet is at least traditional, well, depending on how you look at it, usually at least 65 to maybe 80% fat, 10 to maybe 30% protein on the high end, and very little carbohydrate, usually 0 to 5%. And tons of different diets hinge on this idea that you should have these certain balances in the amount of protein, carbs, and fat. And I'm saying that none of that really matters if at the end of the day you're burning more calories than you consume. And I'll get into that in a second here. But Nutrition 101, there are micronutrients and macronutrients. Micronutrients are those things that our body needs in very small amounts. Micro meaning small. So most vitamins and minerals are essentially micronutrients. We don't need a lot. And sometimes, only a couple of micrograms or milligrams of some of these. Macronutrients, by contrast, are things that we need in larger amounts. Protein, carbs, and fat are all macronutrients. And they're all essentially fuel for the body. Any protein, carb, or fat can be used essentially as a fuel source through a variety of different energy systems in the body. But if we're in a caloric deficit, all macronutrients that you eat will essentially be utilized for fuel, and body fat will be used for any extra fuel that your body needs that particular day. And this is just collectively looking at the day as a whole. So if you burn 2,000 calories a day through metabolic processes and total activity, and you only eat 1,800 calories a day, it really doesn't matter where that 1,800 calories a day comes from because your body has already broken all of that down for energy and then has 200 calories worth of stored body fat that it utilizes for energy. Food choice, however, could affect hormonal levels, energy due to things like blood sugar, satiety, which is how hungry you are. But in terms of body composition, the amount of fat that you lose, macros don't really matter if you're getting your protein needs. Now, as an interesting tangent, this also means that you can get shredded on junk food, and there isn't really a such thing as a good or a bad food. There's only over or under consumption of certain things that your body needs. If you're not getting enough protein and you're fairly active, your body will break down muscle for the amino acids that it needs. If you're over consuming certain things, there will be a negative effect. I've pointed out the RDA levels that the government recommends, the minimum amount necessary for 97.5% of the human population to not experience any negative side effects. If you look at those tables, there's also an upper tolerable level, a certain point past which you're much more likely to experience negative side effects from overconsuming, even good things like vitamin C, for example. You can overconsume and start to feel certain side effects that I won't get into, but it can mess with your digestion. Too much of anything is bad. Not getting enough of something you need is bad. So in that regard, I contend that there are no good foods or bad foods. There are only foods containing various degrees of nutrients that you may or may not need at that time. And in that regard, there's only overconsumption or underconsumption. So my theory of diet, focus on protein. Know what your protein goal is based on your activity, based on your body composition, and based on your goals. And you could reference yesterday's tape for a brief understanding of that. At a bare minimum, try and eat at least 100 grams a day, which for most people, especially Americans, that's really not a big deal. Most of us get that in very easily. And you probably don't need more than 1 gram per pound of body weight. unless you perform a lot of distance aerobic activity or you're working out a couple hours a day, you're going to need that likely for fuel and likely for the extra muscle breakdown that's occurring from the duration of your workouts. So focus on protein. Eat somewhere between 100 grams a day and no more or so than 1 gram per pound of body weight. And then basically I recommend people eat whatever they want to stay within their caloric goal. And if you listen to a tape a couple days ago when I recommended a good starting place if you need to lose fat in terms of calorie goal, 10 times your body weight. So if you're 250 pounds, you might identify that 150 or so pounds is maybe the limit to how much protein you should eat. So structure your day and kind of plan your day, plan your meals so that you're going to eat between 100 and 150 grams of protein a day. And then eat whatever you want. You want a candy bar, have a candy bar. If you want pasta, if you want a donut, have those things. Now, I should say that if all you eat is what's traditionally seen as junk food and protein, you may not feel the best. Your blood sugar might be all over the place. You might have these ebbs and flows in your energy. But I contend that this is a self-correcting mechanism because if you go too many days kind of feeling like this, not only are you probably going to get tired of the chips, junk food, candy, you'll correct this because you don't feel as good as if you ate as what's traditionally seen as better. If you're eating what's widely regarded as healthy food all the time, chicken, broccoli, sweet potatoes, and that's all you ever have and you're staying within those goals, eventually you're going to kind of get tired of that. And you should maybe think about allowing yourself to have something, but still staying within your caloric and your protein needs. Diet is way overcomplicated by people in the fitness industry. It's maybe the most important part. You can't out-train a bad diet, but you don't need to make it more complicated than it has to be either. So I really wanted to take the first couple of days in this week, seeing as this week is all about diet, really give you guys a very simplified, common sense approach to diet that will produce results. That being said, this has been a brief tape today. No particular assignment today, just really reflect upon your own diet. Maybe allow yourselves to have a little bit of flexibility, but still maintain that same caloric limit. Analyze your diet and let me know if you're going to make any changes. Send those emails to fitcoachjerome@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.